Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our Swadhyaya Online Reading Retreat Labs presents Power of SAP, the Gateway to Spirituality series. And in this, we are continuing to read it from Bhagavad Gita series. And today we are going to start a new verse, that is verse number 61 of chapter number 2. And let's then read it. And the topic is, are we winning the misery championships with our eyes? So before we go there, we will read the translation and purport from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 2, verse number 61. Translation: one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as the man of steady intelligence. Purport: that the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna consciousness, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvāsā Muni picked a quarrel with Mahārāja Ambarīṣa, and Durvāsā Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore couldn't check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not a powerful yogi, as a sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sages' injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications, as mentioned in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 9.4.18 to 20. So we'll read only the translations here. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Kṛṣṇa, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, or his tongue in last tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a mat-paraḥ devotee of the Lord. The word mat-paraḥ is most significant in this connection. How one can become mat-paraḥ is described in the life of Mahārāja Ambarīṣa. Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana, a great scholar and acharya in the line of the mat-paraḥ, remarks, mad-bhakti prabhavena sarvendriya vijaya purvika svatan drishtisu lavati bhava. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of the devotional service to Kṛṣṇa. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given as a blazing fire. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than the Vishnu form simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of the real yoga. So this is one of the key terms we have been learning here. So this is one of the key terms of God mentions. We'll be learning the meaning of this as well. So this is our word of the day again from Bhagavad Gita as it is. So you can see also the benefit of reading the scripture. Also, improves your vocabulary as well. Yeah. So that is something I will say. Phantasmagoria, that is meaning a sequence of real or imaginary images like that seen in a dream, right? That is you can read it about it. Dream-like visions can be called phantasmagoria, right? Yeah. So that is something we have been learning today. And now let's go back to Gita for daily enrichment series. And then this will be reading the reflections for 2.61, right? Most of us have entered the misery championship. Here is how. The qualifying rounds. Our contemporary culture asserts our eyes. Assaults means, suppose if you don't know meaning, make a physical attack on. He pleaded guilty to assaulting a police officer. This is the meaning. Our contemporary culture assaults our eyes with visually alluring images of sensuous objects. When we undergo the misery of the tormenting desire to get those objects, we win the qualifying rounds of the misery championship. The initial rounds, the images are doctored professionally. So here, doctor actually has been used as a verb. You can see that. Doctor. Yeah. Images are doctored professionally to look much better than the real objects. Okay, so you can also see the similar kind of representation in the advertisement as well. They will say and put a terms and condition or asterisk saying just a representational purpose only, right? So the images are doctored professionally to look up much better than the real objects. So when we visually consume those objects by possessing and enjoying them, our experience never lives up to the hype. By experiencing the misery of frustrated expectations, we win the initial rounds. The latter rounds, the sheer number of visually alluring worldly objects is so great that we can never consume all of them. That is why no matter how many objects we consume, many more keep tormenting us. When we experience the misery of a perpetual torment, we win the rounds that lead to the finals. The final, the pleasure from visual consumption of worldly forms is fleeting but intoxicating. So fleeting means here lasting for a very short time. For a fleeting moment, I saw the face of a boy. So that's the meaning of a fleeting. That means it's a very short span of a time. Fleeting but intoxicating, becoming addicted to that intoxicating pleasure we see as sources of pleasure, the very objects that are sources of our misery. When we dedicate our life to quoting and embracing misery as if it were pleasure, we win the misery championship and get the privilege of drinking from the cup of visual misery for the rest of our life. Gita wisdom liberates us from this miserable game by revealing misery-free ways of visual enjoyment. As souls, we can feast visually on the transcendental enchanting form of Kṛṣṇa and thereby get ever-increasing spiritual happiness. By thus fixing our consciousness on Kṛṣṇa, as the Bhagavad Gita 2.61 indicates, we can steady our intelligence and opt out of the misery championship. Again, we'll read the verse translation here. Verse number 2.61. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Right? So now here again we have a couple of words. We will be making them in our word of the day. So in the word of the day, we will be learning here Phantasmagoria, which is again already we have learned that word. Another word is assaults, right? Assaults mean make a physical attack. Assaults. Doctored fitting. Doctored and flitting, then that's fine. Okay. So now in the next session, we'll start with a new verse, that is verse number 2.62. That is the next verse only. And based on that, we have the theme is, the topic is what we hold mentally. What we hold mentally holds us mentally. What we hold mentally holds us mentally. So this is something we will be learning in the next session. Stay tuned. And with this, today we have completed the verse number 2.61. We'll mark it as a green as we have completed. And I would recommend to read the verse, its translation and purport details. We'll be having a separate Kahoot quiz for that as well. in other sessions. Okay. So I will keep you updated. Now for now, we will stop here. Hare Krishna. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.